y'all be okay? You wouldn't mind? Let me know if you presume. You can move it if you like.
On the radio.
I didn't want to.
Was it raining? I was laid up there in the bed.
Marianne, Orlando Magic. Yeah. Comparable records.
How you been?
Great. How about yourself?
Fine, as far as I know. Nobody's told me any different. Is anybody missing tonight? 2, 4.
Board of Zoning Appeals Executive Session.
Oh, is she
I'm
not
sorry,
here?
Regular session, Tuesday, March 10th.
Are you still in Lakeland?
Lakeland?
Yeah, didn't you work at Lakeland at one time?
I did. Oh, no, I haven't been there.
Okay, I thought, because I knew Forrest was working out there.
Yeah. Oh, Forrest? Oh.
Forrest Owens was a planner out there for a year or so, a couple of years maybe. But he
Before me.
resigned.
That's right.
Maybe at the end of February, maybe at the end of this month.
Good evening. The March Board of Zoning Appeals meeting is now called to order. I have two announcements before we get started. First, the Board of Zoning Appeals is a quasi-judicial body, and as such, the latitude for acting on applications is somewhat limited by state statute and city ordinance. This meeting is being recorded. If you would like to speak, I ask that you come up to the podium and speak clearly into the microphone. Everyone tonight, including staff, will need to be sworn in. At this time, I'd like to go ahead and swear in the staff. Would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? The second announcement is all of our motions are made in the affirmative. As that does not necessarily mean that the person making the motion is, or the person seconding the motion will actually vote for the motion when the roll is called. Anyone wishing to speak to us tonight, when you come to the podium, you'll need to be sworn in. As I mentioned, we'll also ask that you state your name and your address so it can be entered into the record. At this point, will you call the roll to establish a quorum?
Mr. Yulhorn,
Here.
Mr. Harless,
Here.
Mr. Hurley,
Here.
Ms. Cliff,
Here.
Alderman Gibson,
Here.
Chairman Sisson.
Here. At this time, the next item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from the January meeting. They've been submitted to the commission. Is there any comments or additions,
I
subtractions?
move to approve.
Thank you. Have a second?
Second.
Will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Hurley,
Abstain.
Mr. Harless,
Yes.
Mr. Yulhorn,
Yes.
Ms. Cliff,
Yes.
Alderman Gibson,
Yes.
Chairman Sisson.
Abstain. And with that, the minutes are approved. At this time, I'll call our next item on the agenda, which is regarding Germantown Elementary. At this time, I'll turn it over to staff to make their report.
Thank you, Chairman Sisson. The item before you this evening is Germantown Elementary School. The request is to grant a use on appeal for a two-story building expansion to an existing public elementary school. As you see here, Germantown Elementary is located here. This is Germantown Middle School. They share the same piece of property. It's located in the R zoning district. Per the zoning ordinance, schools may be a permitted use in the R zoning district, and any increase in previous use would also be analyzed under use on appeal, which you are seeing today. This is the existing school building, and these are the 10 portables. The proposal is to remove these 10 portable classrooms and replace it with a 22,000 square foot building. As mentioned, this is Germantown Elementary. This is part of the parking lot for the soccerplex. Over here is the fire station, just to orient you a little bit. And up here is Farm Park. There are 50 parking spaces on the school's property right here. The middle school also has some parking here. And additionally, parking is used at the soccerplex and also this lot here, which is accessed as well over to the Cloyce Park. So this is the existing conditions, as we mentioned, 10 portable classrooms. Per the fire marshal, the portable classrooms are currently empty and not being used. The building expansion would accommodate this area. The portables would be removed and the expansion would be placed there, as you see here. In addition, with this building expansion, there would be a new drive here in Bulb to access this area. Currently, right here, between Germantown Elementary and the middle school properties, there is a concrete barricade, so you cannot access this drive all the way through. The concrete barricade would be removed and there would be a fire access gate. So normal traffic would not be able to travel through here, but fire access could get through here. This is the building data. So right now, this is the size of the existing elementary school building and the portables. So this is the current size of the existing building and portables. As mentioned, the portables will be removed and there would be an addition of 22,000 square feet. So here is the overall building increase that you would see. The impervious surface is estimated to be at 38%. This is somewhat higher than the policy recommendation in the Design Review Commission manual of 35%. The building coverage is 17.6%, which is under the 25% as outlined in the zoning ordinance. The maximum height would be 35 feet as allowed per the zoning ordinance. This is the number of parking spaces that will be required on the property. They have 50, and then as mentioned, there are joint parking agreements with this other amount of parking spaces on site. This shows those other parking spaces available. In talking with the fire marshal, you can't actually access this parking from the fire department. You can access it from this drive here and then also to Cloyce Park. And then, as mentioned, soccerplex and then other parking at the middle school. The building addition, as you see here, it would be a freestanding building. It would be connected to the existing school building with a metal canopy, a chain link fence with fabric panels would also attach it. This, as mentioned, would replace the portables. Per the applicant, there would be no increase in the amount of teachers or students. The reason for the addition is to accommodate existing students and teachers. This project had been reviewed by the Planning Commission Subcommittee on 2 occasions. They did request a neighborhood meeting, which happened. And they also requested a traffic study, which had been prepared. The traffic study analyzed the project as presented, so no increase in students or teachers. And overall, they found that there would not be an increase in off-site queuing or an increase in parking, since there would be no increase in students or teachers. The Planning Commission Subcommittee then remanded the request back to the Board of Zoning Appeals once it was discovered that the addition was not 11,000 square feet, but rather 22,000 square feet. And in looking at the use on appeal criteria per section 23-49B, these are the criteria that need to be analyzed in considering whether an expansion of an existing use should be permitted, whether or not the approval will impair an adequate supply of light and air to the adjacent property, will it unreasonably increase the congestion of public streets, increase the danger of fire, or endanger public safety, in any other way impair the public health, safety, comfort, or welfare of the inhabitants of the city. Such consideration further may relate to screening, landscaping, location, or other conditions necessary to protect property in the vicinity of the subject site. So these are the criteria to analyze when looking at the expansion of the use on appeal. If the use on appeal is granted for the expansion, Then the next step would be to go back to the Planning Commission for approval of the site plan, to the Design Review Commission for review of the site plan, the building elevations, landscaping and fencing, and then finally, once construction plans had been reviewed, it would go forward to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen for approval of a development contract. That concludes staff's report. The applicant's representative, Mr. Ledford from Ledford Engineering, is here for any questions.
Thank you. Is there any questions of the staff from the commission?
I have a question for
Yes.
for the staff. No, not for the
Okay.
staff.
Thank you very much. At this time, the applicant representative would like to come forward.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Ledford with Ledford Engineering, Planning, and Architecture at 5567 Commander Drive, Arlington, Tennessee. I believe you had a question.
And if you'll let me swear you in first.
Oh, okay.
You'll raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
I do.
Thank you. And before we get to questions, is there anything you'd like to add to the report itself?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Then questions?
Yes, if you don't mind. So the building is taking up about the same footprint as the portables are now,
Yes, sir. But it's
And-
two-story.
but it's a two-story building. Right. So how many classrooms are going to be in the building?
In the new building, I think 14.
14. And it's replacing 10 portables, and each one of the portables was one classroom.
I presume, yes. I don't know that.
Okay.
I've not asked
Do you
that.
know the use that the classrooms are intended to be put to?
I do not.
But it is an increase of 4 classrooms.
Classrooms, yes.
Okay.
I assume overall, now I don't know how the existing building is going to be restructured, so I really can't say if there's going to be an increase in classrooms or not.
Yeah.
As far as within that footprint, yes, but I don't know what their intent is in the existing structure to, as far as allocation of classrooms there.
Well, do you know if the portable buildings that are there now are in use?
It was my understanding that they were in use, but I believe Sarah said no, that you have information that.
The fire marshal said that they're not in use, and Alderman Gibson also spoke with the
Okay, so I will defer to, yeah, theirs.
Well, if the portables are empty, why is this space necessary?
I wish I could answer that question for you. I'm assuming that they need to separate classrooms and, there's classroom size issues and student-teacher ratios that always have to be met. So I'm assuming that those are the reasons why they need the space.
Mr. Ledford, do you know how many students there are currently?
I don't have that with me, Sarah. It was on the information we provided you at just the elementary school.
Yes.
There is elementary student 643.
And is it your understanding that that number will remain the same, or is there going to be an increase in students?
Mr. Floyd Sides with the Shelby County Schools actually told me that they are not projecting any increase, but they're actually looking at maybe having a decrease in students.
So why would they need an additional 12,000 square feet?
22.
22. Again, I'm
Well,
not,
you take away the portables and then add so it's a net.
well, you're right. You're netting 12,000. I can't answer that. Again, I'm assuming that would go back to how the allocation of student-teacher ratios goes into place and their desired use of the spaces that they have.
Mr. Leopard, I've got a couple of questions.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it doesn't sound like anyone from the district is here to help you answer these, because I assume more than fact, no one from the district is here with you.
No, ma'am.
So the traffic study that the planning subcommittee Planning Commission Subcommittee asked to bring forward on page 1, where it talks about reducing the off-site queues of traffic. The necessity that will require additional off-street storage capacity that works with the existing circulation patterns. Are you familiar with the traffic study?
I am.
There are very real concerns about the current traffic situation, and 646 students at Germantown Elementary currently is under capacity for what a school that would have a 22,000 square foot building. Again, since those students, in our justification where it says applicant's justification is that both current students and teachers, a place for them to be moved to. The concern is that with that, there will be extra capacity. But you're saying you don't know the intent.
All I know is that I was told that they actually are not projecting. Their projections are that they actually will decrease in student population.
Well, just to make you aware, just 2 years ago, Shelby County Schools looked at about a $500 million budget in deferred maintenance alone. They proposed closing 26 schools, building 10 new with 5 additions. Just 2 years ago, Germantown Elementary was never even considered housing an addition at that location. So my concerns are that things are fluid with Shelby County Schools. Things are happening, and this could change upon approval. Do you know what the long-range plan for Germantown Elementary School is?
No, ma'am, I do not.
So the 5-year or 10-year strategic plan, we don't know what that looks like for the school?
No, I'm sure that they have one, but it wasn't a part of staff request. Maybe I should clarify my role in this. You know, we are the engineer and applicant for the site plan. And what we are asking for is this, the use on appeal. And it was my understanding that the reason this was necessitated was because when the school was built, because it was in the R district, a use on appeal to have a school system on that site was never applied for. So this was the opportunity for a use on appeal for a school system to operate there, to come before you and have the appropriate approval granted. As far as 5-year plans for the overall school system, for how they would like to restructure this existing building, or future plans other than they would like to do this building with 14 classrooms, I'm not aware of those items.
Well, Mr. Leverett, and I appreciate that. I'm going to elaborate on why I'm asking these very specific questions, but I would like to speak to our attorney. So based on what Mr. Ledford just said, this use on appeal is so a school can function at that location. That's separate from what I believe that the intent of this use on appeal is. It is a question.
The only issue about use on appeal. I have no microphone.
You're not used to that.
The questions about use on appeal would be only for the proposed new structure.
Thank you. It is for the addition, and so
may I ask, does the current facility, and this is maybe for my understanding of this overall process as well, because in past circumstances when I have dealt with zoning issues, a use on appeal to have a particular function in a zone It was just to grant the use. It was not to grant a site plan approval. It wasn't, it's the use on appeal or the zoning request was just to say, may I do this particular activity within this zone? And is it a right of use or is it a use on appeal? So I've never been exposed to having a particular, we've got 13 acres and a use on appeal of a particular portion of a zoning. So this is a little bit unusual for me. I'll just share that with you.
I understand.
Oh, you certainly, I'm sure your attorney knows the law and the ins and outs of that much more than I do.
Sure, and I think that this is a complicated
Yes, it is.
conversation. The reason why I'm asking these specific questions is because there's been a settlement with Shelby County Schools in the city of Germantown, and I'm concerned about Shelby County Schools' decision to invest $6 million into a school that falls outside of their local education agency already.
Yes,
It's
ma'am.
not for you,
Yes, ma'am,
but
I
it is. That is a concern for me. That type of investment into a new structure, it calls into question when I see it says applicant's justification. The existing portable classrooms will be replaced with a permanent building to accommodate current teachers and students. And so that leads me to the conclusion that as Shelby County Schools begins to make those zoning decisions for their entire district, as they're charged to do, they're going to maximize occupancy at Germantown Elementary, which speaks to one of 4 very specific criteria that we have to look at for use on appeal, which has to do with traffic on those public streets. And so that's where
Now that I can speak to, the
and
traffic.
I understand that. I understand that. I think that it's disingenuous for us to think that that addition will not be used to its highest and best use. That's what it's there for. Given that those schools that fall, again, not a conversation for you, but you're here, and so I'm going to speak for a minute. There are schools that fall within their LEA, again, that local education agency, Oak Forest Elementary specifically, less than 2 miles away from Germantown Elementary. And I think that that's a greater conversation as to, again, why Shelby County Schools would want to invest outside of their LEA. So, especially given the extreme needs that the district has. I'm going to reserve my comments for now.
Just to comment, Mr. Ledford, I appreciate you being here. We're asking some difficult questions of you that, quite frankly, you're not in a position to answer. Correct. And I would like to suggest to the chairman that we delay a vote on this until the Shelby County School District has a representative here to answer the questions about current head count, proposed head count of students, why they need the additional space in order for us to address the concerns we have about the traffic and the safety of the area around the school.
I agree with that suggestion. I think there's, but I believe we may need to.
Do I need to put that in the form of a motion?
But I believe we need to have some opportunities for the public to be heard first, but then ultimately that would be an option. We, as the BZA, could table this and allow for the district to come with some more information about this application, or the district could withdraw this for this meeting and then resubmit for the April meeting. So.
Well, if it's tabled, it will just go to the April meeting, will it not?
That, my understanding, yes, that's correct.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't want to withdraw the application because I'd rather it's tabled because I don't have the authority to withdraw it.
Sure.
Can we table something? This is an applicant, and has asked for a table.
So, yes, we as a commission, but I think before we would entertain that motion.
Agreed.
Because that would need to be a motion, we would continue on with this, allowing, if there's any additional information from the applicant that he wishes to put forward at this time, and then we would open for comments from the public. And then
I will say this, as far as traffic is concerned, in looking at the traffic study, and speaking with the client, they are agreeable to doing things that would help to mitigate some of the queuing lines on Cross Country and on C.D. Smith to
Can you
help out.
elaborate on what those might be?
Well, what we would do is take some of the queuing on the south side of the building for the elementary school there and build another lane interior on the property. And we can also create more queuing lines through the parking lot for the soccerplex up there. And if we have some traffic control and build on the west side of the building, have a longer queuing lane to move property off of move vehicles off C.D. Smith. So those are options that we've already looking at, and they're agreeable to. Again, if it's a technical thing, if it's engineering, those sort of things, I can certainly speak to those.
Sure. And
My question is this, and it's pretty elementary. We're talking about increased traffic and so forth, but no increase in the school population, other than the fact that it seems to be in my view, laying the groundwork. We're more than doubling the 10,000 feet of temporary buildings that are there, or portables as they're called. So there's no increase in population, but we've laid the groundwork for them to have 12,000 more square feet of classrooms. It's not adding up to me, Mr. Lynn.
Well, I certainly, again, I can't speak to that. All I can tell you is because I presented those questions, and if you look at some of the site data and the school classroom teachers and data and traffic and automobiles and stuff that was provided to us by this school system, those are the numbers that they gave us. And so they said they weren't projecting any increases, and that's really all I can say.
Right. Well, in a sense, they have hung you out to dry.
It's not the
You're
first
coming up
time
here as
I've
an
been in this
engineer,
business.
and they're not, and really, they have I feel, a little disregard sending you up here, knowing that we're gonna ask these questions. It almost appears as though they don't want to talk about it. They just want to see if
Well, I do think if they could give a better understanding of how their classroom spaces work with the existing building and how this will function along with that, it would go a long way in clarifying some of the questions that you're asking, some of those hard questions about student population.
Right.
Because if I could see a floor plan and then see this floor plan, it would make a lot more sense maybe then.
Mike, I don't see a point in delaying this. I mean, they've given us the information to make a decision, and if they think this is adequate, we'll make a decision based on that.
The only comment I'd have, Frank, is they really haven't provided
Exactly.
the information. And the fact that they don't have a representative here, I think we ought to give them the opportunity to come before us and at least speak to these issues. There may be something that we're missing, and I think we owe it to them and to the children.
I agree, but I guess in my cynical view, it may be by design that Mr. Ledford is who's here to talk about this.
Well, I don't really feel like that way because we were kind of trying to get things. We've already had a site plan that went to Planning Commission or subcommittee. And so these were things that were brought out, the traffic study and the zoning being an R zoning, which doesn't support education without use on appeal. So we were kind of hurrying things up to get this application in. And I don't know that they were aware that the meeting was this afternoon, because Sarah worked with me and we kind of got everything in there and we got it pushed forward. So I would respectfully ask that you do table it, because I think I would like for them to be here and represent themselves versus me trying to represent them.
Mr. Ledford, I think that that would be very helpful. I think that at minimum, on our packet, the disparity where it says, under applicant's justification, it's not a wash. The existing portable classrooms will be replaced with a permanent building to accommodate the current teachers and students.
Yeah.
If the portables are not being used today, that leads me to believe that there is.
And again, I think with an overall plan, which I'm sure that they must have, that might help to clarify that with
No
those
question.
questions.
No
for you.
question.
Yeah.
No question.
And if I can make one quick comment, if this were any other use, like it was a shoe store or a movie theater, if it was a movie theater and the movie theater came to us to build an additional screen, a new theater beside the existing theaters, and they told us that it wouldn't result in any more traffic or require any more parking because they didn't plan on selling any more tickets, we'd politely tell them, well, that might be your intention, but we've got to look down the line. You're creating the capacity, and we've got to look at the use and the capacity. And if they say they're not adding students, but they're adding 4 additional classrooms, there is a disparity. And although they might have the best intentions today, they're adding the capacity for 4 additional classrooms of students. And for me, the issue is the traffic. And it's not necessarily that there would be a problem, it's that we don't have the information based on.
And Mr. Hurley, I think you've made a wonderful analogy as far as what it would be comparable to. And I think that we're not talking about just 4 classrooms. We're talking about 14 classrooms additionally. Because those 10 portables are sitting empty today. They're not being used. And so not to belabor.
Thank you very much for your time. At this point, we want to open it up to the public to be heard, given everything that's been said. So I remind anyone that comes up, if you'll state your full name and address, and then I'll swear you in. Oh, I'm sorry. First, let me clarify. We're going to open it up at this moment for those who would like to speak in favor of the application. I'll go sit down. Yeah, but, yeah. And at this point, sorry, you get your steps in. Now, for those who would like to speak in opposition of the applicant.
Give those people fair opportunity.
Yeah, Groundhog Day.
Yep. My name's Doug Dugard. I live at 3050 Cross Country Drive, which is on the same street that the elementary school is on, so.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. I've actually served on Germantown Park, our community program or board there. So I guess I would go, I know to the engineer's point, maybe the Shelby County Schools didn't have a good opportunity to come and to really know what was going on. And I think you can see we would have had a lot more people here if we had known. So I feel like maybe the word didn't get out enough, as far as public notice goes for us. So, but anyway, to the point where I'm at. So if you look at the delineation of this project here, this original design for the elementary and the middle school was fit for purpose for this community. I mean, it was looked at, what we had for the housing here, what we looked at for student body to be, to go through the school system. And to add additional buildings or even the trailers that were out back, I don't feel that was the right thing, or this building, this is really fit for purpose at this point. And I appreciate the factors talking about the children here, but we're talking about servicing children in the community that aren't a part of our community. And I'm not trying to single anybody out, but again, I think there's an opportunity for this commission and for the city to get Shelby County to do the right thing, which is put a school in the community where these kids live to service that. So I appreciate, Ms. Gibson, where you're going with that. I mean, and others here. So I think that's the important piece of all of this is that if there's an opportunity here to keep the school the way it is and fit for purpose for our community, I mean, that's the thing that should happen. And I appreciate the staff report and the engineering report about the traffic study and other things. We've already got a burdened infrastructure here, so not adding additional burden to something that's already burdened, okay. I mean, is that really what we want to hear? It's burdened, it's overloaded. We've met with the mayor, we've met with the chief of police a number of times, we've met with city engineering of things we can do to try to fix the traffic issues and the flow and some of the other stuff that's there. You know, one of the things that we're hearing is that they're adding on to the apartment complex that's over to the south side of our subdivision. So that's going to increase the load on the school. So if, you know, the things that we're talking about where they're looking to build, they're looking to accommodate additional student body. I mean, that's what they're trying to do. You know, to the point we're talking about, if they're not using the trailers that are there now, the site's accommodating what they have. So if they build anything else, it's just going to add student load to that. We also talked about on the parking side, you know, if we've got parking for an additional, you know, we got parking for 50 students, and I think they were showing in here parking upwards of 90. I mean, again, that's just adding more to the load, to the traffic load. And then from a delineation of the project, but then you talk about the scope creep. So then they're kind of creeping into the parking for, you know, the soccer field and then the high school baseball field, and then also the other the soccer field that's over on the other side. So again, it's not just using this site, but it's again creeping into using additional space, you know, adjacent to it. So again, I just ask you to vote against this in any form or fashion. I don't know that any proposal that they could do, even to you know, to maybe answer the questions how it can be used properly. I just don't think it's the right fit for our community and to service the students that need to be serviced the right way. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much. At this time, is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition?
Hi, my name is Nikki Mosteller, and I live at 7875 Cross Village Drive.
And if you'll raise your right hand, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
So I am now the president of the Germantown Park Neighborhood Association, and I heard reference that we were given notice about a meeting, and I was not, and I'm not aware of anybody else in the neighborhood. Doug actually called me this afternoon. I feel like this is such an important issue for our neighborhood simply because we have come before the commission regarding the speeding, the traffic. What we're talking about right now is it's not just Germantown Elementary School. We have a traffic pattern now with Germantown Municipal Schools. So we've got traffic going every which way. We've got school buses roaring up and down the streets. We have had multiple car accidents on Cross Village. We have personally had a puppy hit because of the speeding. So this is very dear to this neighborhood. We have tried very hard in the last 4 years to pull the neighborhood together so that we could stand up when things come up. And so I don't know where we go to. How are we supposed to know when these meetings are taking place? But this is a pretty critical information that I need to be able to get out to the neighborhood. So can anybody offer where or whom or how I get this information?
I will refer to staff because notice is sent out, and you want to give some clarification.
Thank you. So per the bylaws of the Board of Zoning Appeals, public notices have to be sent out to all neighbors within 300 feet. That was accomplished. Also,
Of the school?
Of the school. So it doesn't stretch probably as far as you think it does. It's probably just.
I don't think it hits a house.
So, it did hit these houses here on Farrendon, and it's down to
The
Farrendon.
ones that back up, it's Elm Leaf.
Yeah, and Elm Leaf. So that would probably be about your 300-foot radius. Additionally.
Is that reasonable, though, considering the fact that these cars are actually coming down Cross Village, Farrendon, and Cross Country?
Yeah.
Elm Leaf has a major speeding problem, but they don't have the congestion problem.
Yeah. Well, what we're required to notice is the 300 feet. As you know, we also increased our noticing to add a public sign. So it's not in the PowerPoint presentation, but in the packet online. since February 28th, there has been a sign posted at the front of the property on Cross Country Drive that says that there's a public hearing coming up.
Would you like to see the picture of it? Because until today, until I went head-on
Yeah.
at the school, it is not visible to the residents driving by.
Madam Chair, would it be possible I could just, for Ms. Mosteller, would we be able to get her contact information, since she is the Neighborhood Association president, where we certainly can communicate from staff
I would think
directly,
y'all would want to hear from the neighborhood that's being
directly to you, just to simply put them on that chain
Okay.
to let them make certain that if you could be the conduit for that.
Would be perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
This time, if there's anyone else.
Are y'all? I am, oh, sorry, I didn't want to take her space. I am Miriam Gunner. I am at 8525 Huntley Way. I am in Germantown. Do I have to swear?
Yes. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do, amen.
Thank you.
I am not in the same neighborhood as these folks, but I am a resident of the city of Germantown. And I know it was quite a sore subject when all the schools split and all the municipalities developed their own school system. Germantown was the only one that did not get to purchase all of the schools in their municipality. So from the aspect of all the citizens of Germantown, adding to a school that should be ours anyway is almost putting salt in that wound. And I think it would be best not only to let Ms. Mosteller's group know, but I think all the citizens of Germantown need to know what's being looked at and considered. And I think there should be some kind of a better notice of things like this that do occur. I did see the sign that Ms. Mosteller had referenced, and it doesn't even give a date or time or anything. In the very bottom, there's a little phone number you can call. And I'm sure we don't want to have to add to the staffing of the city of Germantown to answer phone calls on when this meeting will take place. So it just stands to reason that there should be a better way of letting people know when these things are coming up. I talked to some friends and neighbors, because I just found out about it today. And they said they didn't know about it. They would have liked to have been here, even though they're not in that particular neighborhood. But after City of Germantown just built a big, beautiful new elementary school, again, it's just salt in the wound for them to want to add to a school when it's not needed. And it sounds like they could very easily add on to another existing Shelby County school outside of Germantown. And I want to thank all of you for the good job that you're doing, and thank you for picking up on the things that we were back here nodding about.
Thank you for your comments. I would like to point out, just for reference, that our agenda for this commission is online, as are the agendas for the Planning Commission meetings coming up. There's a city calendar that sets out when our particular commission meets every second Tuesday of the month. Planning would be on that, and frankly, all the commissions, there's a city calendar that has all of the commissions, and then as you go onto that website, you can get to their specific agenda for that coming month.
Okay.
So just, if you find yourself curious about something, that would be a place to go and look for upcoming meetings and agendas.
Madam Chair, if I could just elaborate, there's also it's the Germantown Upfront. It basically, every week, you get a email that is delivered to your email that says what's going on in the city. It has a link to that city calendar as well. And so it does make it difficult with all of the things. We have commission meetings.
Inundated.
Say it again.
We're inundated with all
I
that. Yeah.
appreciate that. I appreciate that. But just another way for it to come to you.
Okay.
Just if
Good to know.
you're curious, if you have a question specifically about something, there's that option.
Okay.
And certainly, staff is available for phone calls if there's, something.
I do have one remaining question, if I may. When all of this took place, as far as the municipal schools were formed, and Shelby County Schools allowed different municipalities to buy different schools, is there a time frame in mind where we have another option to take back the Germantown schools, which carry the name of Germantown, which makes it extremely confusing to people?
I can feel eyes staring at me. I would simply say that from the get-go, since at least my time, I've been here since 2014, I was not part of that board. However, I served on the Shelby County Board of Education at one point during that year of transition. It is an ongoing conversation. It's one that we have at least once a year with Shelby County Schools. And I would simply say that you have to have a willing seller and a willing buyer. And it's a conversation that we've had. It really does not pertain to this conversation for this addition and use on appeal for tonight. But I appreciate your question and certainly can maybe have further conversation later.
That'd be great. Thank y'all.
Thank you. And then, we have,
Chairman,
yes.
before you swear her in, I just also wanted to point out from a noticing perspective that this meeting as a open public hearing is also advertised in the Germantown News, and that all of the plans associated with all of our commissions that have public hearings are posted on the city website as well to be distributed. There's lively conversations across the social media platforms that have been occurring around this subject, and that finally on the city website, citizens can sign up for e-blast where they can be notified about specific meetings that are of interest to them as it relates to any of the 4 commissions that are run out of economic development, all the way down to what day bridge is being played at the Pickering Center. So there's a variety of different ways to get the information beyond just the sign and the 300-foot notification for tonight's meeting.
Well, thank you. I did not know about that blast that you could sign up for. So thank you for giving that information to everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
Good evening. My name is Carol Neely, and I live at 7950 Elm Leaf Drive, which is on the street that backs up to the schools. And thank you
if
for
I-
the opportunity to address you all.
If I can
Oh,
swear you in.
yeah. Thanks for the reminder, Ellen.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. And thanks to Ellen for making sure I do. Like I said, thank you for the opportunity to give us a chance to talk, even though we're so few in number this evening. I personally have served on the Finance Committee for the City of Germantown for about 8 or 9 years in the past, and on the Library Commissions. And I have proudly lived here for over 20 years. And I'm very proud of our community and all the great things that we do. It's a wonderful place to live. I personally have been in Philadelphia all the last week, and I keep track of my emails very assiduously, and I didn't see the one about tonight, okay? I just happened to hear about it through our Nextdoor app, which is a really nice form of communication, and I rushed over here when I heard about this because the school is at the end of our street. And this impacts us greatly, okay? We do have a tremendous amount more of traffic now. And it seems like it doesn't seem, definitely we have a lot of speeders. It's like the children know what to do, but their parents don't necessarily respect the neighborhood and follow the laws, okay? I can't tell you how many times I've gone out to walk a dog or just take a walk down the street and had to yell at somebody about the time that the schools are getting out to slow down and stop speeding, all right? Plus, they throw trash on our streets. A thing that I do as another part of community service is I now monitor the Bluebird Trail at the Bobby Lanier Farm Park, and that's a very rewarding thing. And in the interest of getting exercise, we usually walk there. So we walk through the school grounds. And I can tell you that that sign that you can barely see from the street, I never saw it before today, and I was just up there on Sunday. So I was quite surprised to see it, okay? I can also tell you that going through the parking lot that is attached to the school, there's lots of trash. There's somebody's pajama bottoms sitting out there in the parking lot right now. It's been there for several days. Who's going to clean that up? You were saying something earlier about the soccerplex possibly being a place for additional parking lanes. Are you referring to the soccerplex that's attached to the farm park?
Yes,
The one on C.D. Smith?
yes,
Okay.
that's,
Because I can tell you, the one that's next to the farm park, they already have overflow people in there, parking and waiting, okay? So if you think you're gonna add more addition, but unless population to the school, they're already in that parking lot. So, those are some of my thoughts. I wasn't really, planning on doing this tonight, but I'm glad I had a chance to say something. And I do want to say that I totally back up everything that you heard from the rest of these folks, okay? And I also strongly would like to suggest that you all vote no. Thank you.
thank you very much, and I want to thank all the members of the public for taking your time to come up here and let us know your thoughts. At this point, is there any other comments that anyone likes to make?
Do we need to hear from the applicant if he's requesting a withdrawal or a tabling of the,
I'm not sure, the applicant can request a withdrawal. I believe the tabling would be a motion within our commission, that our commission decides to
fine.
table it. And I don't want to speak, but my understanding is that you do not wish to withdraw, but for a variety of reasons.
Well, if you planning on tabling, then no. If not, then I will withdraw it and give my client at least the opportunity to come and speak to those issues, the questions that you had.
And I appreciate that, but that's, I guess at this time, our commission needs to decide, somebody needs to make a motion.
I make a motion that we table the proposal for 30 days to our next meeting.
Okay. Do I have a second on that?
I will second it. As Mr. Harless is the chairman of our planning commission, out of respect for you, I think that, and certainly, I will second that.
Can I make a comment before we vote?
Sure.
And that is that the homeowners have come down to see us, and some of their concerns are the same ones that I have. Shelby County Schools has made application, and this is what they've given us. It's a lot of information, and they didn't deem that it was, I guess they just made the assumption that this is the way it is. They deem that's enough information, so I say we vote on the information they've given us.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that comment, but just to clarify, we have a motion and a second, so
Oh, I
we will
know,
be.
but you can still discuss it if you feel differently.
Yeah, we're
Absolutely.
in discussion, and I think that Mr. Yulhorn's comments are appropriate, and I don't disagree with them.
Yeah.
I would
And
just-
this is no disregard for you, no, Mr. Ledford.
None
I
taken.
understand
None taken.
you're here, you're being forthright with us, but the questions that we have are not your purview. And they didn't deem that it was necessary to come and answer any questions.
Frank, just as an aside, when this has come before the Planning Commission Subcommittee twice, and in both cases, the school sent 3 representatives. So it's not like they have tried to ignore this. I think they thought that there wouldn't be an issue, and so that's probably why they did it. I think they deserve a right to be heard. We have a lot of questions, and I think we have an obligation to hear what they have to say.
And Mike, normally I would agree with you, and I don't know if any of the questions that we've raised tonight were addressed in the planning commission.
They weren't.
Well,
Wait, I apologize, they were or they were not?
They were not. We did not know of the 22,000 square foot addition. We thought it was 11,000 until we were having discussions with the board, with the school board members or the school representatives. And they said, oh, this is 22,000, not 11,000. And we said, at that point, we need to table it because there's some other issues. So that's how it happened, and they were very forthright, and they were there with 3 representatives. So
And I appreciate what you're saying. I just know that the history has been that maybe things weren't always what they appeared to be. So I'm just saying, they have applied for this. They're having their day. The neighbors had their day, and I think they're entitled to a vote.
I think at this point in time, I'm going to go out on a limb right now and withdraw this and resubmit this so that at this point in time, because I do think that the client, and it could be that I didn't communicate or it wasn't communicated to them that this was the evening of the meeting. And I think it would be best if they were here to answer your questions as best they can so that they are adequately represented. And I don't feel that is the case tonight. So I think, and Sarah, you'll have to help me here. Withdrawal, when can we be?
Well, and I need a point, just sorry to interrupt, because since we have a motion and a second, can withdrawal occur prior to the vote on that motion?
I don't remember the timing, but there is in our policies and procedures, there's a time by which a motion to withdraw must be made. I do not remember that.
Yeah,
I believe it was, I cannot recall if it was before a motion.
Could it be if a motion were to be withdrawn?
could a motion be withdrawn before it's voted on?
Sure, I can withdraw the motion. Madam Chairman, I withdraw the motion.
Okay, thank you. So now we no longer have a motion pending in front of us.
Madam Chairman, I would like to withdraw the application at this time and then work with staff to get the application back before you and make sure that the school system has the representatives here. I think that's the fair way to do it so that they are fairly represented.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. At this time, because this has been withdrawn, there's no need for us to go any further on this tonight.
Thank you, and I apologize if it could have been my fault, communicating, and so I hate to have you here, and maybe you're here every second Tuesday anyway, but,
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you for everyone who's come tonight. At this point, that matter will close. Do we have any old business or new business that needs to be discussed? That being the case, that there's nothing else for us, I adjourn this meeting. Thank you.